Like, yeah, okay, you're on. Is that going to happen or isn't it? I don't even know. And you know me, I wait. We always have a little bit of a delay because I wait until I see it because I don't believe it. And yes, unless I see it, I have a problem. Otherwise, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it. How about that? Let's make sure the chat's not totally weird because settings have been switched up, which is annoying. So I'll wait until the chat shows me some love and that I see somebody saying hello or something like that so that I know we're alive and dancing like soldiers in the battlefield. All right. What's up, everybody? Good afternoon, good evening, good day, good tomorrow. If you're in the future in Australia, how's it going? Did we make it another day? Is the climate still like, well, we can live here? Is that happening? I hope so. I get more worried by the day. I really do. Shout out to everyone who makes this show possible. Our friends over at ZT.com, ZHITEA.com. Their tea kind of rules, and you can get it wholesale because of the pandemic. You guys know me. I've been obsessed with the raspberry pecan, one of my personal favorites. They were talking about maybe doing an exclusive tea with me, but Ron's raspberry sounds kind of weird. I'm not on board with it, so we're going to have to figure out something else. But we'll see what happens there. And of course, the white peach Chinese tea. I love that tea. So freaking good. Anyway, ZT.com. Do some whole orders. Our friends over at triageoil.com. Thank you for the most recent care package. They make pain oil that you rub on your body, and it has done wonders for my neck. Check it out. You will not be disappointed. Triageoil.com. TRIAGE oil.com. All right, my guest today need no introduction. These are friends of the shows. You know them very well, and you know their show. And they were recently suspended by YouTube. So please welcome the Convo Couch to the show, Pasta and Fiorella of the Convo Couch. So guys, you were just suspended from YouTube. In the words of a favorite book of all of ours, written by our favorite contemporary philosopher, Hillary Clinton, what happened?
Well, I'll let Fiorella explain that, but first I'd like to wish you a good morrow.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Well, so we got suspended reportedly for doing a story when Johnny Investigation brought up Wayfair, and all we did was
wait a second. It's Johnny Investigation, Johnny Sue.
Yeah.
How many nicknames?
Down here,
we got to roll back the nicknames a little bit. He has like 24 nicknames at this point.
You can thank Pasta for that.
No. I love it. I love it. Which is because I'm like, well, is Johnny Investigation a different dude? You know, like occasionally it's like you get thrown off a little bit and you got to clarify. You're like, wait, is that a different guy? I hope Johnny took my advice and used that picture of him standing in front of the police as his dating profile. I never got to follow up on that with him. But anyway,
it worked. It was good advice. It worked.
I knew it was going to work. All right. Anyway, continue.
Anyway, we digress. But yeah, Johnny went on a deep dive, and our sister actually had brought up the story of the Wayfair because it was these kids on TikTok talking about, hey, there's cabinets that cost $14,000. Why is that? And so Johnny just went on there and showed the pictures of the cabinets, did some research on how much these industrial cabinets cost, and he was like, this is strange. And like he was like, oh look, the cabinets, some of them are named after these kids that have been missing, and then he brought up the FBI files regarding
the symbolism
and things, but those were FBI files that anybody could get. And there were no assertions made, right? We made zero assertions. We didn't say, oh, this is entirely true. This is how this happens, blah, blah, blah. We simply mentioned it. And it was a small part of our big show. And it was clipped up. And 3 months later, we get not just a strike for it, but we get suspended for a week for it. And this wasn't the first time, Ron. If you recall, when we did the primary coverage that whole day when Pasta was here.
You were on that show,
with
Ron.
Nico.
Yeah.
You were on it. I was on the ground reporting from the polling locations. They got that whole stream taken down as well. That was a warning. We fought it, and it didn't count as a strike. It was just a warning after the fact. Yeah. But they were able to take the stream down and claim that we were. What was the claim? That
that one was just not abiding by the community guidelines. The Wayfair one from 3 months ago was harassment and cyberbullying was the excuse. So it's the two areas they dinged us. You can't talk about pedophilia. No. And you can't talk about the elections. I'm sorry, Faith.
And I'm just going to say, we didn't even like strictly talk about pedophilia. We simply mentioned that the Wayfair scandal wasn't, the Wayfair thing was weird. And then we brought up the FBI files on the pedophilia when we were discussing it, because they were FBI, and we said, oh, well, this is interesting. This is what the symbolism is. This is what these people use. And I've talked about it before regarding Backstage, you know, in regarding other sites on the internet, when pedophiles are looking for kids, they do use certain cryptic language, and that's a fact. Everybody knows that. So that's, I mean, but the reasons were cyberbullying and harassment. So it was really weird to us that they use that as an excuse. And now we're seeing, Ron, multiple channels get taken down, like The Last American Vagabond was recently taken down, and he does deep dives onto things like COVID, a lot of other issues, the same pedophilia, foreign policy, just different things. And like, they're very informative, and it's really scary to see that in the last 6 days, 5 days or so, they have actually cracked down hard on YouTube in order to protect Joe Biden, is what it seems like to me.
Yeah.
I think it goes even deeper than that. And this goes into the theme that we keep coming back to, that we've been coming back to for another number of years now. You know, what are the Silicon Valley tech people? How are they qualified to determine what is and isn't real news, what is and isn't free speech? And, you know, there's a lot of crazy stuff that people post on the internet, sure. But the solution to bad speech is good speech. And let people post whatever they want and have a different viewpoint, have another alternative, have another analysis. And you're certainly treading on dangerous territory when people are doing independent investigations, pointing to information that is publicly available, making these connections, and that is deemed uncouth. And then the other, for instance, you brought up, which is the elections, that goes into, I mean, I think what really is going on there is this idea that political speech in the form of debates is somehow the private property of the cable news companies, which is morally disgusting. And by the way, textbook fascism. This idea that this isn't information for the people. This is political information in a society that's supposed to be civically engaged. You're supposed to be, we're supposed to be a democracy. That's what we're told. The idea that a debate between people running for office is somehow the property of privately owned corporations, who, by the way, are insanely compromised, and that's a whole different topic that we could go down. It is nothing short of criminal. Yet you had all these online entities very willing to carry that out. Oh, you're commentating on this, which, by the way, falls under the fair use law. Commentating for the purposes of education, for the purposes of news and information, that is right in the fair use laws. You don't need a frickin' law degree to be able to decipher that stuff. It's right frickin' there. And you're going to take people down. Yeah.
I mean, you were part of that whole situation too when we, we did those debates. And the second one we did, they took us down. You know, they stopped us right in our tracks. We cited the fair use. They gave us our channel back. But it really is crazy. But the thing that really bothers me right now too, as well, is that, we're all lefties over here. I mean, I consider you guys even further left than me, but a lot of people on the left are cheering on this censorship because they think it's a mark or a ding against Donald Trump, and it's not. And we were screaming back when Alex Jones got the platform, like, hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is no bueno. If they take off Alex Jones, they'll take us off us next, and then they'll take you off. And we're seeing stuff like that. We have a friend who has a Bernie Sanders page, thousands of followers. They just deplatformed him and took him down for a little while. Why? They don't even give you an answer. So we are really in some scary, scary times, but I really wish we can get some of these progressives on the left. There's a group of us, and I think a lot of us understand what's going on because we work in independent media, but there's a bunch of people over on the left that are following the AOCs, the Squad, and the Bernies, and they're cheering on this censorship. We somehow got to get them, shake them, and get them back our way. So we have a lot of work to do, and hopefully we'll stay up long enough before they delete our channel to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is weird when you see people cheer on. I mean, the weirdest thing, and this is kind of a callback to the Alex Jones things, is when, you know, and I think this kind of goes to the theme that I talk a lot about on this show. We are a society of people raised on comic books where there's always a good guy and a bad guy. And it's like when you have the message of actually there's only bad guys involved here, that's sometimes a very bitter pill for people to swallow. Like, well, Alex Jones is a bad guy and they deplatformed him. Like, yeah, I don't like Alex Jones either, but unless he is blatantly violating free speech laws, which I don't know if he did or didn't, but it's not my place to determine that. It's a constitutional lawyer's place to determine that. And it's not some big tech, you know, Silicon Valley guy's place to determine that. How are they qualified to determine that? You know, unless free speech laws have been violated, nobody should ever be deplatformed under any circumstance. It doesn't matter. So, and then you would see people across the political spectrum saying stuff like, well, they're a private company. They can do whatever they want. And it's like, well, gee, that's weird. That's very weird seeing a lefty say something like that.
I know.
It's very weird. That's very backwards. And furthermore, all that is evident of that doesn't mean, okay, case closed. What it does mean is that we are in a situation where technology has passed up the law. We don't have law that is on the same level as where technology has gotten. It has passed up the law. We're not there yet. So the solution to that is to make good laws, not just be like, well, they're a private company, so tough shit. Well, what are you going to do when they get, you know, it's that famous meme that we've all seen. First, they came for the journalists. Well, and I don't know what happened after that because there was nowhere was telling me what was going on.
Well, they're a private company, but they're not. I mean, either YouTube is going to be a platform that is non-biased, or they're going to be the author or the producer that decides what is and what isn't. They can't be both. And that's what people miss with that argument. They also miss the fact that there's an incestuous relationship between these big social media platforms like YouTube and Twitter and the establishment. I mean, half of these people have worked on campaigns for either Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden, or somehow been involved in the political process. How is Susan Wojcicki, who donated $50,000 to the Hillary Clinton campaign fund, the Victory Fund, how is she not going to be biased in her assessment of whether what YouTubers say is real or isn't real news, if she has those to me conflicts of interest in her? Like, there's no way to even argue that. Like, there should not be anybody but the people deciding what is free speech and what isn't. And I think any sort of excuse to use the right as we got to get rid of QAnon because they're conspiracy theorists is really an excuse. I mean, ultimately I think the establishment is here to take down any voices that pretty much expose their lies. You could point to the Hunter Biden and Burisma thing, but you could also point to anything regarding Russiagate. If we're talking about real conspiracy theories, Russiagate was a conspiracy theory that has been presented as fact continuously throughout the last 3 years. Yet even when we have the classified problem, the proof that it's not, it's still, they're still doing it.
They're still doing it. I mean, Rachel Maddow and Anderson Cooper are still going off the whole, Russia, now it's even so, it's to the point where it's so absurd where they're saying the information coming back on Hunter Biden from Giuliani might have been
Russia. Yeah.
Come on. I mean, where do we go from here?
Well, now, I mean, they just don't even point to any shred of remote evidence. They just say the buzzword because, and that is what propaganda is supposed to do. I mean, that's just what it's supposed to do. You repeat something enough, which I mean, 3 years is actually a conservative time frame as far as, I mean, it was more than 3 years where it was just nonstop, and it was a conspiracy theory. And then, but now that they can just, whenever there's something, it's, that's Russia. This is probably Russia doing this. This is probably Russia doing that. They don't even need to have a remote shred of anything resembling evidence. And it's one of those things. I think the way I've summed it up at this point to just sort of like just kind of squash it out right away. Russiagate is the establishment, the Democratic establishment's version of voter fraud. And what I mean by that is you always see the right talking about voter fraud. Like it's this like, oh man, voter fraud, voter fraud. And what's really going on in our elections? We know what's really going on. Blatant voter suppression, blatant purging of the rolls, super delegates, cheat apps, gerrymandering, the Electoral College. The list goes on and on. We could list them all frickin' hour. That's what's really going on in our elections. Has voter fraud happened a small handful of times in the history of ever? Yeah, it has. Is that a bad thing? Sure, you shouldn't do that. That's wrong. But when you're listing what's going on in our elections, is it even remotely an issue? No, it absolutely isn't. Did Russia spread some memes for the sake of spamming people? Yeah, that happened. Did it affect somebody's vote? I don't see how any reasonable person would see Bernie Sanders with abs painted as a rainbow, or Jesus trying to help you stop masturbating, and would think, I'm going to go vote for this candidate over this other one now. I don't see how any rational person would do that. That makes zero sense to me. Sounds a little freaking insane that a bunch of memes, half of them which were published after the 2016 election anyway, somehow influenced people's votes. Did it happen? Yeah, I mean, it did happen. Did Putin prefer Trump over Hillary? Yeah, he did. He also preferred Obama when Obama was running. Is Putin a good guy? No. How is that relevant, though? Like, what does that have to do? So, again, this is like their voter fraud. This is the, hey, look over here. Look at this distraction. Instead of looking at what's really going on in our elections. And what really goes on in our elections, if we want to sum it up in one sentence, they do everything they can to make sure that the status quo does not get shifted at all. And what happens is we have a two-party duopoly that relies on each other. So the Democrats do everything they can to make sure the establishment candidate gets in during the primary. And then during the general, usually a lot of the foul play falls upon Republicans because you know who's really going to uphold Wall Street with no strings attached? It's going to be the Republican because they don't even need to play pretend. That's what really goes on in our elections.
Yeah. I'd take it a step further, too, as well. I think the Democrats are trying to use the cover of COVID to stuff the ballot box themselves. And people should be saying election fraud, not voter fraud, because it is simply a cartel that cheats in its own territory. Election rigging is a bipartisan practice. However, the Republicans do what they can do to sell the narrative. When they say voter fraud, that's a signal to the people who are saying, well, you know, how are all these immigrants that shouldn't be able to vote and these fellas and that shouldn't have to be vote, get ready to vote? You know what I'm saying? So they use those tactics to sell it. Almost like when you hear those tactics like how Trump stole the 2020 election. Well, excuse me, you can't steal the election when the Democrats already stole it from Bernie Sanders in the primary. So too late for that. You know what I'm saying? It's like the cheaters calling out the other cheaters. And I also want to say too, as well, Putin is not a great guy. He's an amazing guy. He sent us a case of vodka with our last paycheck. So please take it easy on Putin. I made him a Putinesca omelet for his birthday. But yeah, Ron, I mean, it is. I mean, in the whole situation too, with this election, it's going to be scary because it seems like no matter what, we can't get balls and strikes, that the Democrats are going to try to cheat. They didn't try to cheat as much last time, and Hillary got beat by Trump. So I think they have a lot of tricks up their sleeves. But at the end of the day, you know who loses? We lose. The people lose, no matter what. And that's what really, really stinks.
See, I don't think the Democrats care that much what happens in a general. I mean, I don't think their first priority is winning. And when I say Democrat, I mean the establishment. I don't mean the people.
Yeah.
I mean
ballot candidates they care for.
Well, yeah, sure. They care for that.
They don't want those progressives getting in, So.
They don't want the progressives getting in. That's why, I mean, they cheat as much as they can in the primary. And then, yeah, if one of them makes it through to the general, they'll try to do everything they can there. But as far as, I mean, whether Trump wins or not, their gravy train keeps rolling hard, and it rolls even harder if he wins again.
Yeah. I think they want Kamala, though. I think they really do want, deep down inside, I think the Democrats want to find a way I think the Obama wing of the Democratic Party is now taking more power away from the Clintons as we speak. I really do feel that way. Reason why Obama whipped the foam to get Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar try to drop out. But I really do think, and he's said it before, I think they want to get Kamala through there. So I think they might try to cheat this election. And on another note, Ron, I've talked about it with Graham too as well. Sometimes I think they want to lose. That's how awful they are at times, that they're putting forth the worst candidate and he keeps on stumbling over his words and whatnot.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like they're not concerned. I mean, if Trump wins again, the gravy train is going to be. I mean, if Trump wins again, Nancy Pelosi will not be able to drive if Trump wins again for at least a couple days, because you know how in cartoons sometimes like dollar signs just flash in somebody's eyes. That's what will happen to her. If Trump wins, she'll just be like, oh my God, the dollar signs will be flashing so much in her eyes. She won't be able to drive a vehicle. It'd be dangerous for her. She'll be like, I didn't know that was a stop sign. I just saw it as a dollar sign. That's all I see in front of me. What's going on? So that's what I'm saying. But I haven't talked about Bolivia yet because I wanted to get your guys' take on it.
Yeah, well, I mean, Bolivia was able to vote out fascism because Bolivia has open and fair and free elections, and people that are united to be able to do that. And so they were able to vote out fascism. And I think it's really telling that they are one of the last two in the continent of South America, Bolivia and Venezuela, emblems of socialism or leftist, at the very least, leftist policies, with even an attempt by a U.S.-backed coup, with even an attempt at the destruction of their resources through the lithium that we so desperately want, and that, Elon Musk said we can coup whoever will want to coup. Even with all of these things, the adversity, the chasing out of Evo Morales, the persecution of the indigenous people, they managed to make this happen. And we were witness that the vast majority of the presidential candidates that ran were in favor of a coup on Bolivia. I mean, they were in favor of this coup. They completely were in agreement with the neocons. And so what we're seeing here is that the United States' hold and their power is diminishing. These countries on the, whether you call them the Eastern allies, the anti-imperialists, they're fighting back. And I think it's really telling in this state where we're experiencing fascism here in America. We don't have healthcare. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're in the middle of economic crisis. And yet a third world country like Bolivia that got their momentum from an indigenous llama herder who was buying for the people is it's really just telling you that the power shift, and it's really exposing how backward our election system is and how corrupt we have become as a nation. It also exposes the media like the AP, who are propagandists, who, by the way, are the most trusting and reliable news source where everybody gets their information from.
Yeah. So wait. Let me interject real quick here before you continue. So what, like, because I think I know where you're going. Like, they wouldn't report that they won.
Yeah.
Like they were just like, well, we're waiting, and then you're seeing all this stuff where it's like, no, it's over. All right, so unpack that, because I was watching that happen in real time too, and I was like, wait a second, what do you mean? It's like, all right, so continue.
Well, they were trying to frame it like Evo Morales had claimed that his party, the MAS, Movement Towards Socialism, won, and without having the proof, which was entirely not valid. I mean, not only did the system, they tried to keep the exit polls away, but MAS had their own system where they were counting and comparing them to the actual results. And those results said that by a large margin, the MAS and Luis Arce had won. And so what we're seeing here is the AP was misreporting on purpose. And also they were also blatantly lying when it came to saying that Evo Morales had to flee because he wanted to avoid like a trial because he had cheated because the elections weren't fair, which came out to be completely false. They also claimed that that he was an authoritarian, and then he was losing popularity because of his authoritarian takes, and that he wanted to stay in power, which wasn't the case. People actually wanted him to run and to remain in power because they trusted him, and he was actually prepping other people like Luis Arce to run instead, and after he took over, and he would have left anyway. They framed it as he was this authoritarian, evil dictator of sorts, just like they do this to everybody that, you know, is a threat to us. And that is what they wrote in their article in the middle of Bolivia, literally voting out fascism.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
I think too, as well, so it's good to point out, Ron, too, we have to take some lessons from the Bolivian people over here. They understand what's going on in our elections. They had their own exit poll team outside of almost every single precinct or polling station you have. So therefore they had ammunition. You know what I'm saying? The checks and balances and the transparency within their system allowed them to put the Bolivian coup, or whatever you call the leadership there, under a microscope and say, hey, listen, don't try to cheat. This isn't America. We'll catch you here. And in fact, if we had done that in the 2016 primaries and the 2020 primaries, instead of ballot harvesting here in California and having Bernie Sanders people go pick up ballots, no, we should have set up shop out in front of every single vote center and get our own numbers. They did it in Iowa with their app, but they weren't prepared in places like California. But it is a lesson to be learned. We have to get a hold of our elections. Somehow, we have to make sure that they call balls and strikes across the boards. And to do that, we can't be hypocritical. We got to call out the Democrats just as much as the Republicans. You know, the Democrats have shown us since 2016. I mean, it's been beyond eye-opening the way they purged 750,000 people from the rolls in Brooklyn, the way they shut down 70% of the polling places in Arizona, the malarkey that's going on in Nevada with Harry Reid letting people go in and vote. I mean, we need
what happened in Louisville, too. I mean, what happened in Louisville where, you know, you had a pro-Trump Democrat and the progressive, and they closed those places early. People literally had to bang on the windows. Well, and you guys have been on the ground of a lot of, of a lot of election integrity issues. So what would be a potential fix for this in the United States? I mean, I know it's not like a one solution.
I was going to say, you got 20 hours?
No, but I have like a few minutes to be like, well, what are the bullet points of this is what we have to do to start solving this? Because it's like, well, we need, like, basically it's like, well, who's doing the counting? I mean, I think the best case scenario is like a public counting.
Yeah. Well, we need a combination of both. Do you want me to take that? Go
ahead.
All right. So number one, right off the bat, I always say this all the time.
Actually, I'd prefer a fee. No, I'm just kidding. I was like, do I get a say? I'd rather fee take. No.
Well, I'll let Fee get the stuff I missed because we know about this pretty well. So I always say that the power lies within those who count the votes, not the person who cast the votes. So the tabulation machines right off the bat, you know, the whole chain of custody is broken in California here, where we have vote centers and then they shuffle these ballots off to a satellite area, and then they're eventually taken down to the tabulation machine. So you're missing the whole chain of custody. These ballots are out of sight. They can go anywhere. They can be messed with. They can be added to. They can be subtracted to. You can really swing an election if you have, you know, if the legislation is for one candidate over the other. But then when you get to the tabulation machine itself, this is the biggest area of concern, I think. This is the big elephant in the room. It's proprietary software, meaning we can't look at it. It's called black box voting. So not necessarily what goes in and is counted will come out accurate. It will come out what the people within arm's length who are really cheating these elections, not Russia. Hate to say it to those people out there, but the legislation and who has the territory control of that state or that county, may it be. But the tabulation machine, number one, we have to throw out proprietary software and have open source software. Number two, we have to do all the counting in the place where the ballot is casted. My suggestion, and this isn't law, is that once we cast our votes, they go into the ballot box. Out of the ballot box, in the comfort of our own home, we can watch on a TV and see.
Yep.
They go right out of the ballot box into a open source machine, which counts them. And then we start the hand process counting in public where they can see it. So now you have the open source machine that counts them right away before any human counts it. Then you have the humans verify it on TV, in the public's eye, and then you have an audit count. So they have to match up those numbers. But Ron, that's only one part of the problem. We have an absentee mail-in process, which used to be dubbed the secret ballot. There is no security to these ballots whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? There are dead people that still cast ballots. There are people who were just made up that cast ballots. If we have to have a system
minimum,
we have to have a system. I mean, it could be overwhelming at times. I mean, I believe that John F. Kennedy won the election because he had hundreds of thousands of dead people voting.
I feel like that's a minimum.
It could happen.
Yeah, I feel like you're talking about a few very small outliers here. But I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying in theme.
I wouldn't think it's as small as you think it is. It's enough to tip an election. If you think about what happens in District 23, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, which she has all the nursing homes under her control, people die every year there, and their ballots still come in. And for years and years, their ballots will still come in because
they also burned a buttload of ballots, and they used
not
software.
Denying that.
I mean, especially if you want to look at what happened most recently, they were using their own counting methods where Tim Canova got results that were as likely as happening as getting struck by lightning twice.
Yes,
that's what really happened there, Pasta. Yeah. So continue.
No, but here's the thing, Ron, whether it lightly happens or it happens, whatever, we can fix that system easy. You know how? Tracking. If you can find a package coming from Amazon that's right around the corner, making a left turn off the 210 coming your way, then you sure as hell better have it with your ballots. So now if you have a tracking mechanism, you know where the ballot went and you know when it was delivered. That's simple. You have to fix that area. So there are multiple areas where this thing could be cheated. And not to mention, we know about the suppression. That's by design. That's to keep the young and progressive voter down. Hit them with lines that are 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, and they're going to be disenfranchised and not encouraged to vote because they don't have that much time. I mean, so it is an overall fixed situation. Believe you me, Ron, I'm not saying one thing happens more than the other, but the potential for something to happen,
some things do happen a lot more than the other.
Jimmy Carter said the area where it's ripe for fraud is in our mail-in and absentee ballots.
Well, but let me just interject here. It's ripe. It is ripe because of the systemic failure in our election system. Meaning, if we had a system where people could literally take their ballot and it would go somewhere, and we could rely on tracking it, and we could rely on it being counted, we wouldn't even have this discussion. It wouldn't matter, and it would be the safest way to vote. And I think younger people especially, are going to want to move towards internet voting. They're going to want to move towards mail voting. We can't do away with the mail voting, but what we can do is fix the systemic failures that allow the mail voting system to be insecure, just like the in-person system is also insecure because there's no trust in the system, because the system is obviously corrupt and it has failed. I would add to what Pasta said, the ranked choice voting is something that I would think should be implemented. It would be easier to do it state by state, but I mean, we should look at a federal way of implementing this. It would allow a plurality and a fairness for third parties to have, like when they're facing the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. It would also be actually democratic. I mean, It would be a democratic process. And I think it would actually allow for a progressive to potentially be the president. Right now, as it stands, it's not going to happen. I mean, it's just very difficult to get any of this done because this two-party system, the duopoly, always fights against it, and they make sure to curtail a progressive in the primary and whatever in the general. So,
can I say something, Ron? That is the common objective, real quick. No matter whatever area they're cheating in, Democratic Party, Republican Party, the common objective is to make sure that the third party doesn't get above 5%. We saw that in Michigan, what they did to Jill Stein, whatnot.
What they're doing now.
They're doing it. They're
removing the Greens from every single ballot that they can.
But that is a common objective of where the two cartels work together. No third party gets above 5%.
Oh, big time, man, because that disrupts their apple cart. I mean, look, it's like the Republicans are only able to behave the way they're able to behave because of how ineffective the Democrats are. Similarly, the Democrats are only able to be how ineffective they are because of how the Republicans behave. Hey, these guys are really gruesome. Take a chance on us again. Well, last time we took a chance on you, you were completely ineffective. Just continued this rugged neoliberalism. Yeah, but look how shitty they are. Then some more time passes. Hey, those guys are really ineffective. Take a chance on us. Yeah, but you guys are like really brutal and gruesome. Yeah, but look at how ineffective they are. Maybe we've changed. All right, I'll roll the dice. And the bipartisanship continues. And of course, they don't want ranked choice voting because that would threaten that apple cart. Isn't it amazing to you when, and of course, there's bipartisan support against ranked choice voting, but I mean, using our governor, Gavin Newsom, as a for instance, he told us, ranked choice voting is just too complicated. Ranked choice voting. You know what I love to do? I love to be like, all right, here's ranked choice voting. You ready? Here I go. All right, you rank your choices. You list them in terms of preference. What happens is everybody lists their choices. And whoever comes in dead last, well, first of all, if someone gets over 51%, election's over. If nobody does, the person who came in last, they get eliminated. So everybody who had that person who came in last as their first choice, it diverts to their second. That process is repeated until someone has 51% of the vote, and then they're declared the winner. I just explained it. It took a matter of seconds. It took about 20 seconds. It took, I think you're going to survive, man. I think you get it. It took 20 seconds for me to explain that. Now, explain what we have now in 20 seconds. Explain superdelegates. Explain the Electoral College. Explain gerrymandering. Explain voter purging. Explain all this. Explain why you use software that has so many freaking red flags. It could be used to time a goddamn marathon, yet you use it anyway because you don't care. And explain that. Explain that. Which I think gets back to the thing you said about open source software, because it's like the stuff that they do use is incredibly corrupt and vulnerable, and nobody cares. They do reports on this stuff, and they're like, "Yeah, by the way, I mean that report that happened in California was, I mean, it read like something out of a comedy sketch, where it's like, so a 9-year-old could hack this, they'd be successful. Somebody could just basically log in here and flip whatever they want. It's not even reliable that it'll give the count accurately." But yeah, no problems here. We're going to use it. Like, are you kidding? You're not even pretending anymore.
Yeah. I was going to say like a 1% audit too. I mean, in Los Angeles, a 1% audit. That's like looking at a dead corpse's fingernail and not doing an autopsy and say, yep, he died because he was, he didn't have enough insulin or whatever the case may be. Case closed. I mean, you're not even giving us a fair audit here to look into things. That's why I always advocate for an open source count, where it's open to the public. We understand the software. You can either throw some blockchain in there to block it up, but either way, it's going to go miles and beyond miles from what we have now, and then have that hand count in public in the eye in the same place that was casted that ballot for the public to see. So you have a 100% audit. I believe Columbia, New York is the only state or only county that really does that. And let me tell you something, Ron, it happens to both parties. It happens to Republicans and Democrats when it comes to this fraction magic of this black box voting. It happened to this gentleman named Dr. Shiva in Massachusetts, where they hand counted the ballots, was right on the mark with the exit polls. Everything was lining up. But everywhere else, you had that Tim Canova mathematical impossibilities hitting him, and he was just thrown right out. And nobody does anything about it. The fact that Americans are just taking this on the chin, our elections being this fugazi, I'm sorry.
It's taboo to say that our election system is a failure. It's taboo to talk about election fraud. And
we're the beacon of the world. We're the
Sorry.
beacon of the world. We're setting the example for democracy. I mean, come on. Do you think that people would become more politically engaged if there were more transparent elections?
I mean, that's a no-brainer.
I think so.
That's a no-brainer. They would absolutely. There's no trust in the system. I mean, I talk to people who aren't political all the time, some of my friends, and they're like, well, what's the point? My vote doesn't count. They literally say that. Like, if you want to cure apathy, show people that they can trust in the system. And right now, distrust in the system is at an all-time high. I mean, we have a mockery going on between Biden and Trump. We just have a mockery going on in our media. The media is propaganda. Most people have realized that the media is propaganda. They just don't know what else to do besides listen to it. And then we have, of course, the election system and the censorship and the economic turmoil. So people are just like at a loss right now. And I think, especially right now more than ever, because there's such a distrust in the system, if you can at least fix something and admit there's a problem. That is the first step, admitting that there's a problem and talking about it more and having people really rally in their own communities, because I don't think the election system is going to get fixed by us voting for it if our votes don't even count. It's kind of a catch-22. We have to like garner attention around it. We have to do things locally, like what Johnny's doing with Raji Robb and the case that Raji brought to the Supreme Court and all of these things that are happening. It has to come locally first and statewide, I think, before it gets to a national level. And people have to remove the taboo of, oh, talking about election rigging means you're just a sore loser, because even politicians refuse to talk about that because they don't want the stigma of being a conspiracy theorist sore loser. All that has to be removed, and we have to be serious about the fact that our elections are completely unfair and not secure.
So I'm glad. I actually wanted to transition into some local speak. So that's cool, because I agree with that. And I think that if you can set an example of this is how it can be done and you start locally, you're going to spark a conversation where people are like, well, wait a second, why don't we do this everywhere? We just did this on a local scale. So we can just expand the resources and do this on a state scale and a federal scale. This should be the way it's done. But you really got to get people interested in local elections, which, by the way, local elections are by far the most important for you, the person. I mean, that's why, and I'm not going to sit here and say corruption doesn't happen locally. Of course it does. It happens all the time. But there's a lot more transparency when you're dealing with everything right in your backyard. And when you really show up and you really fight for something on the ballot, it's a lot harder for somebody to stop you. It's a lot harder for them to stop you in your tracks. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's a lot harder. It's a lot easier when it's something federal or even when it's something state, comparatively speaking. So check this out. This happened. I just kind of tweeted this. Acting locally is dope AF, which I think that's my new slogan for the year. Breaking: Aurora becomes the first city in Colorado to ban no-knock warrants by police. Vote was 7-3 in favor. So the reason I bring all this up, which, kudos Aurora, that's cool. Do you think it's time that we really start focusing, we, the collective we, start focusing on local alliances more so than ever before? Because that's something that I still have really not seen happen on a mass scale. It's happening some. It's happening more than it has the past 4 years. It should have started happening immediately in 2016. It should have started happening immediately the first time Bernie was cheated in 2016, because that was the eye opener where it's like, okay, if you're a left-leaning person in this country, you're not as alone as you thought you were. At least that's the lesson I got. I used to believe that, well, I guess not many people think the way I do. I live in a country where I'm an outlier. Not many people think this way. I just live in a very conservative country. Then 2016 happened. All my worst suspicions were confirmed that, wait a second, I do live in a very conservative country politically, but it doesn't actually reflect the people that live here. And the Democratic Party hates people who think like me more than they hate the right. They want to be buddy-buddy with the right. They hate people like me more. That's the duopoly we live in. It's beyond corrupt. It's beyond saving, and it cannot be reformed. But it doesn't reflect the people who live here. So it's time to respond accordingly. But yet you haven't really seen a groundswell of local alliances, at least not to the scale I would like to see. What do you guys think about that? Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Yeah, I 100% agree, especially when we're staying on the kind of topics of how a local elections can affect our elections in general, the elections, the Board of Supervisors, it's the counties that have a lot of say of what happens to our elections. So when I think about, the fact that, we went into that courtroom or that city council room and Fee got to speak for 1 minute, you know what I'm saying? I looked at all those Board of Supervisors and saying, these are the people we need to get in power right here in our backyard if we want to change our elections systemically. And I mean, I know when it comes to Fee's favorite person, Shama Swan, you don't have to tell her about local elections. Yeah. I'll let you talk about that because I know.
Yeah. I mean, I am like baffled that there aren't more people who have taken the same actions she has. Shama Sawan has been able to really literally change the face of politics, not just in Seattle, but in Washington, and also show that it's possible to be done via a very, very local city council. I mean, they spent $1 million, Amazon did, to get rid of her, and that it didn't work. She's also been a thorn on the side of the mayor, Jenny Durkin, and of Seattle. She's also been a thorn on the side of the police. She literally uses the support of her people to enact change, and that's what's missing in
she's the one who let them in. She's the one who let them into City Hall, I think.
Yeah. She tried to do that too. And you think about the national.
She succeeded in doing it.
She did.
She let them in. She succeeded.
She let the battalion, so to speak. And this is something that a lot is missing in our Congress, is what I was going to say, because they could use that. I mean, the squad could literally be saying, hey, you know what, we're going to demand this, and you guys show up at this time. Let's all be there. Let's do it. People like AOC have that ability, have that following to do that. We're not seeing that coalition between the electoral process and the changes you can participate through electoralism and the direct actions that push those changes. And Shama Sawan has mastered the art of doing that. And we could have that here. But by the way, she isn't a Democrat. She isn't a Democrat. That's a really good point to make, because when you are part of the Democratic Party, you do have to abide by certain laws within their system. So it handicaps you in a way. And so what we're seeing is that it's possible to be a socialist and be elected to city council, because not everybody pays attention to city council. And that's where we need to put our efforts and our push right now. City council, then eventually that's how we grow and expand. You can have Greens in city council. We used to have a Green as a mayor of Santa Monica a while ago. Like, it's absolutely possible.
Yeah. And if you think about that national push from the Democratic Bernie Sanders wing, about $15 an hour across the board, well, she got that done as a city council member in Seattle. And that's just something to point out. I love it when Shahid Buttar says, when you think global, you act local. And that's what we need to do. We need to get our bench back in there. I thought you were thinking about running, weren't you, Ron?
No way. Okay. First of all, I would lose. There is a lot of footage out there of me saying stuff like I'm against private property. So that right there, they would just play that and I would lose. I think I did write you in as mayor before, Pasta. Yes. And I think Fee should run. I think Fee should run for something.
Well, I am like you. I have said things like like abolish capitalism.
Said if you run, she'll run.
I mean,
she didn't say that.
I'm pretty super lefty, but I also want to point out the ranked choice voting is happening in Maine, and that's another thing that we, like I said, we could act locally as well, and we could get that passed. There's a lot of things that happen here in LA, like the Public Bank LA. That
yes. That was a bunch of people who kept showing up to City Hall until they were sick of seeing them.
Yep.
No.
And they got it. And we almost won that one. In fact, in some ways we did win that one, because later they passed that ordinance. We do have the ability. There's going to be 10 public banks in California.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we got to go on the push for what you were doing for the municipal internet across the board. I thought that was amazing, what you did. I want to continue to get back on that. I want to push. That's
Especially
something
now.
big. Yeah. If we can get municipal internet across the board in some of these cities, you know what I'm saying? That's going to be big. And that's so good for people in poverty or people who are trying to get out of poverty. A free and fair open internet is vital to them. And that's something we got to continue to do. Continue to show up, continue to make the phone calls, bug your city councilman and get them to do your bidding, to change and get that effect in play. Don't worry. Don't concentrate on Congress and Nancy Pelosi, because she's just going to give you some ice cream and said, we fed them.
She won't even give you ice cream. She'll just say we fed them.
We feed them.
That was the most. We don't even. That was disgusting. So gross.
Disgusting.
That was just so gross.
She makes Marie Antoinette look like nothing. Like, right?
First of all, and we don't have to get off on this too long, but providing for people during a pandemic is not feeding them. Providing for people during a pandemic is one of the things a fucking federal government is for. That's one of the things it's for. That's why or at least why we're told, we file our taxes every year. That if something like a pandemic happens, which Typically happens once a frickin' century. But when it does, you are taken care of. Not because it's a handout, but because you can't work. You can't because of a pandemic. And the government is supposed to have your back because you have their back year after year when you file your taxes. That's what we are taught. So we feed them. What the fuck? So I had a visceral reaction to that, if you couldn't tell.
No.
Thank you for being compassionate to our constituents. We represent them. We know them.
Oh my God.
She don't know shit. She's never out there for a march. She's never gone out.
She
You
won't
never see a
debate
picture
her
going
opponent.
to,
Even Mitch
Yeah.
McConnell
No
will
way.
debate his opponent.
Exactly.
Right?
What a fugazi.
Repulsive. I know that's your favorite word, buddy. You really love that word. In 2021, you have to like not use that anymore. Like when we buzzed you, whatever you would say, fam, that needs to be like fugazi. You just need a buzz.
I need another word. I used to do forget about it, fugazi.
He won't
fam.
curse now. He won't curse.
Trying not to for my mom who watches the show. Hi, Mom.
Oh.
Get your news on with Ron. Remember that I told you about him? This is him.
I don't know if my mom watches this show or not. I really don't. But if she does, and she's like, I wish you wouldn't curse so much, I'd be like, I'll stop when I reach your quota. And then my mom will say, touche. And that'll be the end of it. My mom curses like a sailor. It's awesome. But yeah. How repulsive do you have to be where I find myself going, I'm with Wolf Blitzer on this one?
Yeah.
How repulsive do you have to be to where I'm like, I agree with Wolf on this one? I never thought I'd say that before. 2020 has been a first for a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
But so getting back to localization, though, I mean, the thing about alliances, too, and I think we all know Gail McLaughlin. We all know what she pulled off in Richmond. Alliances don't just involve people running for office. That's part of it. And, like, let's be real. We should try to avoid things like multiple progressives all running for the same thing. We should try to avoid that strategically. We should try to strategically avoid something like that. But it doesn't just, it takes activism. It takes direct action. It takes content. It takes journalists. It takes artists. It takes comedians. It takes music. It takes, hey, Emma Goldman, she taught us a long, long time ago, a revolution without dancing isn't a revolution worth having, and you need the arts. That's got to be part of it too. So it takes all those things. It goes far beyond electoralism. So let me ask you guys, because I don't have an answer for this. How do you really start building that in a community?
Well, I was going to say it also takes discourse. That's the first thing.
Of course.
We got to get people to start talking to one another and stop demonizing each other, especially right now. We have this issue on the left, and it's there. It's evident. If 2020 has revealed anything, it's revealed that there is a split among the progressives and some of the ideology. So I think the first thing we have to do is just keep promoting discourse. But it really is a shame when you get sites like and platforms like YouTube who are actually suppressing discourse and conversations. But more than anything, I think we just have to continue to get in there and have conversations with people who disagree with us, you know what I'm saying, and kind of work out our differences. Also, I think it's just a matter of about prioritizing. We talk about that, Tulsi Gabbard kind of left wing who believes in ending regime change wars, but we also believe in protecting our civil liberties. Well, a progressive who fights for Bernie Sanders, who believes in Medicare for all and a Green New Deal, needs to also understand to have those policies, we need to protect these other policies like our speech, like our elections. And if we want to have money for these things, we have to stop using so much money on the empire all around the world. So right now, I think more than anything, we have to have discourse to get together to build that bigger foundation, to build that bigger movement. And then we can eventually figure out how to move forward. But it's going to start with that, because the elites have definitely divided us and have us fighting each other so they can run off with all the profits. That's just my personal opinion. It's about having the conversations right now first, and then we can start working on everything else.
Well, I mean, I agree that discourse is a huge part of it, but I also think people have to be personally affected. I mean, I'm at the point where I thought a pandemic would do it. I thought a pandemic would give people the impetus to literally go out there and be like, hey, where it's a pandemic, we don't have healthcare. Let's protest healthcare. Oh wait, it's a pandemic and they gave us $1,200 and that's it. Man, let's go protest that. I don't think enough people are affected by it. I think we're going to see that happen with this wave of evictions coming in as the economy worsens, which every single economist, the ones I agree with and don't usually agree with, have literally said, like, there's an impending crisis coming. And I see way too many people still clutching to the comfort of going back to normalcy, not yet wanting to admit that there is no going back to normalcy, that this was a line that was drawn, and now we know that the government isn't there for us. And once they are directly affected in their pocket, because unfortunately that's how people learn, not everybody, but a lot of people, I think that's going to be like, cause them to be like, hey, maybe look, is there a rental assistance I can look at? Oh, here are these people that have been fighting for rent cancellation, the LA Tenants Unit. Okay, these people, yeah, look, the Black Lives Matter people are fighting against police brutality, which is taking money from our communities and putting them in something we don't need. Let's align with them. Oh, okay, hey guys, like, we're also fighting jails. We're immigrants and we're fighting for the path to citizenship, but these people are also being detained unfairly in these prisons as well. Oh, okay, why don't we work together, and so on and so on. And it's going to take direct action, and the direct action will happen when people feel the need for it to happen, because right now there's still some semblance of society where people want to forget about it and go back to their lives. But the moment they can't do that anymore, I think that's when that's going to happen. And this is why we're seeing fascism come into play on YouTube and on Twitter and social media, because they're scared as everything keeps deteriorating, as the empire is crumbling before us, that we're going to come together and realize, wait a minute, yeah, you're a white guy, but maybe, you know, we don't hate each other so much. Maybe you just think I'm an immigrant, I'm taking your job, but really I'm not. And look over here, Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump, they have more in common with each other than we do. Why are we fighting here? Like, we need to realize we have more in common. And hey, let's remove these people. Let's go to their homes. Let's protest. Let's make them uncomfortable. I mean, that is what it's going to take, I think. I really don't see any other way of letting electoralism do its job or voting fascism out. It's not going to happen that way.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, it's a total ground up thing. That's why, you know, when you're just focusing on electoralism, people will kind of look at someone like me, and I think even like you guys as well, where it's like, well, you guys seem a little bit cynical and a bit hopeless. But then when you look at the grassroots and you look at the ground floor and you look at neighborhoods and communities, well, I'm actually completely an optimist, because I do think that getting together in our communities, which I think, as you're saying, Fee, will inevitably happen, because there is no going back to normal. There's going to be a new normal. The other side, the detail, though, is it doesn't have to be a bad thing. The way I really like to describe it to people in the most simplistic of terms is, we as a society, before this pandemic happened, we as a society, the contemporary American society, we were driving off a freaking cliff, and there were no brakes. The car was fucked up. Part of it was on fire, and we were just going off a freaking cliff. Now the shitty car has completely stopped. So we're not going off the cliff anymore. We're just completely stopped in gridlock, and there's fumes everywhere, and there's shit all around, and there's probably some deadly rattlesnake slithering that's going to get in the car soon. But we do have the chance to fix up the car and drive in a different direction away from the cliff, in the direction we're supposed to be driving to, towards I don't know, whatever destination you want. The beach.
Cliff, Ron.
We'll go with the beach, because I like the beach. We got to that's the theme of Get Your News On with Ron. We got a chance to drive to the beach. Don't give up. We got a chance to drive to the frickin' beach. All right, let's take some viewer thoughts here.
Hey, Ron.
Yes, Pasta.
I just really wanted to say something, because it's really amazing, because what Fiorella said, and I'm just going to be really quick about it, is that it's nothing better that when you're at a city council, the people's city council, LA protest in front of Mayor Garcetti's house with 150 people. And
Great
then you
guy.
get another group like the Black Unity Project or come around, the Black Future Project, and they'll come around and they'll join the whole group too as well. And now you have 300 people out in front of that house. That's something that needs to happen. When I say we're looking for a leader out there, I don't mean a leader to lead everybody. I'm looking for a leader who's going to get all the other leaders in the room to put aside their differences, come together, because we need to get those bodies in the street. And I think that's the most important thing right now. A leader to lead the leaders, because everybody's kind of broken off and there are other little groups together. But if you put those groups together on their common goals, their common problems that they can fight the establishment or the elites against, forget about it. That is yet to happen. And when it does happen, this could be huge.
Well, I nominate Johnny. What do you guys think?
Well, he's doing a great job. So
I think Johnny's one of the guys.
Yeah,
it's gonna be Johnny and a handful of others.
Johnny Investigation.
Johnny Investigation. He has a million names. The guy with a million. Who's got this? The dude with all the names. The names guy with the phone photo. That guy. He's got. But no, you're absolutely right. And Mayor Garcetti, boy, that guy.
An Italian guy, Ronnie. We got a personal beef with this guy. That guy is a Fugazi. You knew it was coming. Stop it. You know it was coming.
Yeah, we don't always do the best in like when you think about it, it's like Garcetti, Rudy Giuliani. It's like Columbus. Well, he may not have even been Italian, actually. We don't know for sure. He likely was, but we're not even sure.
We didn't like Columbus. Like guys like me and Ron, Columbus was not our dude and stuff. But even the Cuomos, Mario Cuomo's father was amazing. His sons, what little shits, what little Fredos they are.
I call Christopher Columbus the original Fredo.
He is.
I was like, he was the original.
Let's go over there. Fredo. He does.
You know what's so funny? I don't know if you got this, Pasta, but every Indigenous Peoples Day, where, in some parts of the country, it's still called Columbus Day because some people want to hold on to the tradition of being wrong. But every day on that date, I always tweet about it, and I tweet about how awful Columbus was. And people, they act like they just cracked some code that no one else realized. And they were like, Placone is an Italian last name. You are a self-hating Italian-American. You hate yourself, which I'm like, that is first of all, yeah, you figured out the code. That, by the way, I've always said a bunch of times, I'm Italian-American. I have family over there. I speak the language. I've said that a buttload of times. But you crack the code. And then I love, you're self-hating. That makes you, do you go up to a German-American and go, hey, do you like Hitler? No, you don't? Why do you hate yourself? Don't we define our heritage by the most horrible among us?
Yeah.
Isn't that totally normal to do?
Ron, I've been part of Italian American groups for a long time, and it was a group of years ago. I said to them, I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, we need to find a different avenue. If we still cling to Christopher Columbus is our day, it's our Italian day. There was even a Sopranos episode about this. We're going to lose. They're going to take down every single Columbus statue because, number one, the guy was an asshole. And number two, why don't we try to make a deal and try to find somebody who really represents Italians in a good way?
Why
and I
present
a guy by the name of Antonio Meucci, who invented the phone, and they tried to steal it from him and say, let's try to swap him out for Christopher Columbus. But a lot of Italian Americans don't want to let go of this thought that this is our day, the Italian day for us. This is our holiday, and how dare they take it? If they take this away from us, Ron, what do we have left? Nothing.
Well, I think a lot of people also don't know any better, which I'm not excusing that, but I think a lot of people, like, they just know what they were taught, that in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. They were just taught the history of the empire by the empire, and they never looked further than that. And they don't really, they're not necessarily open to anything that disputes that. And I don't know if I think to an extent we've evolved further, but, because I feel like, about 9 years ago, I was on stage at a comedy club. I did an anti-Columbus joke, and I got booed by an entire audience of about 100 people. It was in a dominantly Italian American community in Western Pennsylvania. I feel like if that happened again today, I don't know if it would have went down that way. I don't know if an entire audience of people would have booed me or not. Maybe it'd be exactly the same. I have no idea. But I don't know. I mean, why? I don't think Italian Americans need a day. We should just have festivals whenever we freaking feel like it, celebrating our food. Yeah, like I mean, dude, just do. Just, I mean, there's Italian fests, like just like there are Greek fests, just like there are, all kinds of festivals where
you have all these Joe Pesci.
What are you talking about?
Joe Pesci Day.
Joe Pesci over here. Stop. What's wrong with you?
They can all be. I mean, Italian fests happen different times of the year in different cities, and the only reason I know that is because I've lived in different places and I've always attended. They always, not to overgeneralize, but Italian Americans generally happen to like sunny weather, I think typically. So usually it happens when it's nice out, but not too blistering hot. So depending on the part of the country you're in, it might happen in August or it might happen in September or June maybe. But, it happens and it's always a fun time. Let's take a few super chatters if you don't mind. I'll start at the bottom. Sam Dean, what's up, buddy? Good day, Ron. Hello, Sam. Sam's from Australia. I met Sam in person in Melbourne. Good to see you again, Sam. Good day, Ron. Did you hear about the politician, I won't say his name, who was at a charity gala the other night and he got so drunk he accidentally had sex with his actual wife? That wasn't the plan. I don't know what that refers to. Do you guys? I don't know what that refers to.
What the heck?
Sam, I don't know what that refers to. You caught me. Yeah, I don't know. Louise Brooks, what's up? Thank you for the hearts. I appreciate that very much. Thank you for the hearts, Louise. I hope you are doing well. Jason, what's up, buddy? Thank you very much for the super chat contribution. I live in Maine and ranked choice voting is awesome. Hell yeah. It's wicked easy. You got to tell that to California. We're worried. It's so complicated here. How can we rank our preferences? Here in California, we follow Gavin Newsom's lead. When we go into a restaurant and we see more than one thing on a menu we'd be willing to eat, we're like, oh, this is so confusing. We just have to go home. How can we possibly rank preferences? This is nuts. Can't do it. Anyway, no, thank you for that. Republicans fought it and are still trying to derail it, but it works, people. Awesome, Jason. Dude Priest, what's up? Can we get the OAS to review the U.S. voting system? At best, we're nothing more than flawed. So what is it? All right, I'm having a brain fart here. What is OAS? What does that stand for again?
Organization of American States. They're another NGO. Yes. They're kind of like one of those regime change aficionados. It was the organization that was used against Bolivia last time to debunk all the proper numbers coming in and throw Evo Morales out of there. We also have Cory Booker on record saying he stands by the OAS. So you might as well stand by George Soros and the NED and all these other.
So what we're saying is, yes, we agree the OAS should come and review our elections, but they won't. But
Well, what about like the European Union or something? I know some people say that. Like, what if we just had this total outside entity oversee our elections?
They're a good one, you know what I'm saying? They go in and talk about a lot of elections.
I'd be fine with it. Anybody that's an outsider that's going to be non-biased, not just have like all our, Western imperialists.
Right.
allies.
Yeah. See, that's the if. Yeah.
That's the problem with the European situation. No, I don't think a lot of people will buy it. But places like the Carter Institution, where I get a lot of information from, where I religiously look at it, because they look at the systemic issues of the elections, you know what I'm saying? That would be a good one. I think there should be some new ones. I like what they're doing over at the Gray Zone. I think they should have the Gray Zone election integrity.
Well, that was Code Pink who
Code Pink
took the Gray Zone people there.
Yeah, like something has to be started where people trust it, whatnot. But at this point in time, I would.
You know what? That's what I want. I just want Code Pink to oversee it all. That's actually what I want. I just want Medea Benjamin, when she's just when something goes wrong, she's just like, "This is bullshit." Like when she's calling Donald Rumsfeld a war criminal, like when she did that, like she's just like, "This is bullshit. This isn't right. We need to fix it now." Fix it now, and then they have to fix it. They're like, Medea.
She gets arrested and stuff, in handcuffs and stuff. But
she won't get arrested because she's in charge. She won't get arrested this time because she's in charge. They just come running and they're like, "What do we need to do? How do we fix this?" And she tells them.
Well, the thing is that she's an anti-imperialist, and she understands that the linchpin to our imperialism is the fact that we always say that the elections of the person who won are bad. They're not good. So that's the first thing we do. We always discredit their elections, and then we go from there. So she understands this stuff, what's going on. And the fact is that if you're going to pay attention to our elections, look at our elections at home. Terrible.
Rule Bell, thank you very much for the super chat contribution. YouTube kicked off TLAV yesterday. Turbo fascism is on. I'm with you, but I gotta say, as a light aside, turbo fascism would be a badass band name.
That's so wrong.
Lot of good band names that are just thrown around, and sometimes you got to look for the silver linings. And when you're facing a dystopian reality, which also not a bad band name, not great, little cliche, but not bad. Sometimes you get some great band names that you're just throwing out in your common language. All right. So JT, should indie progressive media just give up with YouTube and move to Pornhub? And then in parentheses,
thank you for watching the casting couch.
Yeah.
Casting couch.
Right. You guys are just one word away.
Ron,
don't give in to the freaking trolls. No, I think we should fight it. I think we need to fight it. In fact, I think I'm a proponent of indie media getting together, getting on a phone call or a chat and figuring out a ways how to fight this. Of course, going to other platforms like Rockfin and stuff, building those up, but simultaneously not giving up.
JT's not trolling. They're just
no. I know.
In parentheses, they say, I know about Rockfin.
Yeah. No. I absolutely. I think Pornhub. Hey, let's nationalize Pornhub. Let's make Pornhub. I don't care what it is, to be honest, but I think we need to seriously get together and find a way to fight this, because this is not okay. And I think they want to silence us, and we shouldn't be silent.
Get your porn on with Ron.
Get your porn on with Ron. That. Oh man. Yeah. I like it. I can't even imagine what that would look like. Torches and Pitchforks, thank you very much for the super chat contribution. Thank you, Torches. Thank you, JT. Thank you, Dudas Priest. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Luis. Thank you, Sam Dean. Thank you, Rule Bull, Rob Mule. Thank you guys very, very much for your super chat contributions. You help keep this show on the air. That's what you do. Oh, and by the way, patreon.com/RonPlacone for a Give What You Can level. You get all kinds of exclusive perks. And you can get your own theme song. That's the thing I'm doing now. I'm doing theme songs for my patrons. Do you want a theme song? Maybe it's about your gig. Maybe it's about your love. Maybe it's about your passion. Maybe it's about, a book you wrote. Patreon.com/RonPlacone. And guys, I got to announce Saturday, before the Convo Couch plugs all their stuff. Saturday, I'm doing a show at Flappers Comedy Club. I'm going to physically be in the club, but you'll be watching it online. You can get tickets for that show at ronplacone.com. It's October 24th at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. So Saturday night, please do come to that show. It's going to be a fun time. One of my favorite comics in LA, Jennifer Jaje, she's going to be opening that show. We're getting a one step closer to live performance. I'll physically be there, but y'all will be watching online, and all the proceeds from that show go to the club, because our venues are going to be the last thing to reopen. So as performers, we're trying to help out where we can. The staff is hurting. So all the proceeds from that are going to the club to help save our stages. So go to ronplacone.com for tickets to that. Convo Couch, where can everybody find you?
Rockfin.
There you go.
Rockfin and Rockfin.
When is your
we'll
thing?
Be up in a couple days. What's that?
Oh, okay. When does the thing expire?
Thursday it's supposed to end. So
okay,
we should be back up on Friday at the latest. But
on YouTube.
Yeah, on YouTube, but who knows right now? Like you just heard, The Last American Vagabond was pulled. They went back and pulled the story from 3.5 months ago to get us. So, I mean, it appears we're on their bullseye. And that's why we're pointing out the Rockfin more than anything. Not the fact that it's, a saving grace for us and another platform we've been working on. The fact is that they don't suppress and they don't censor their content creators. They take good care of them. And it's one of those things for the future. You can get involved in the act, get yourself some Ray. Ray is the token that is part of the Ethereum network. It's something that's serious. Ethereum is the number 2 second biggest coin behind Bitcoin right now, as far as cryptocurrencies are involved. So it's a great platform to get involved with. And you could also get in financially involved as well. You can endorse us for $9.99 a month. And that gives you everybody's content, including Ron, including Graham's, including Jimmy's, across the board content, premium content, advertisement free. We will stream for our Twitter, Periscope, Twitch, that kind of thing here and there.
Yeah, we have Facebook
as well. But right now, we want everybody to concentrate on that, Rockman. It is so important to us right now. It's all about defeating the censorship that's coming at us. And Rockfin is a place that we have kind of found a lot of good a platform of sorts. It's clean, it's nice, whatnot. It's making improvements. It's just a nice new home to go to. So please go to our Rockfin and subscribe to us.
Right on. The Convo Couch, you know where to find them. Guys, thanks so much for stopping in. It's always great to chat with you. It's always great to catch up. And, you guys, we'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same channel, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy says meow. I say peace.